Right, are we live?
Yeah.
Come on. Right, we're done. We can go. Anyone else here today?
Nobody
No,
else.
it's just us.
Just us. Right. We're up to Tesvav Amud Aleph, second line. How did I do? Somebody's come on. I just click it twice, yeah? Oh, right. We're up to Tesvav Amud Aleph, second line. We're discussing the following question. A person is Erev Pesach and he's busy burning his chametz. And he's a Kohen and he has two piles of chametz. One is Truma Tahira and one is Truma Tameh. Now regarding Truma, there's a special mitzvah called Mishmeres Trumoisai, that a person has a mitzvah to look after Truma. You have to guard it, you have to look after it and use it to the best ability. So the Kohen is about to he's already thrown in the Tomei Truma into a fire. He's made a big fire, threw it in. And his son comes along with the toy Truma, and he wants to throw it into the same bonfire. So his father stops him. He says, how can you throw it into the same fire? When you throw it into the fire, what's going to happen? It's going to become Tomei. So his son says, I don't understand what we're doing to this Truma. We're burning it. And we still have to be concerned to keep it toy. He says, yes. Torah says, Mishmeres Trumoisai. This is the question, who's right, the father or the son? Rameir says, like the son, he wants to throw the Truma into the same fire. Who cares? It is the end of the day, you're destroying it. Since you're destroying it, so the mitzvah of Mishmeres Trumoisai is gone. And all you have left is you want to get rid of it anyway. So it doesn't matter if it becomes Tomei. For those few seconds before it gets consumed in the flames or become Tomei, I don't care. Rabbi Yosi disagrees with him. Rabbi Yosi in our Mishnah says, you're not allowed to. That means you have a mitzvah of guarding the Truma all the way. While it's being burned, you have to guard it. That is the machlokes from Rabbi Yosi in our Mishnah. Rameir says, I can prove my halacha. I learned it not my own idea. I didn't come up with this idea myself. I worked it out. The simple translation is, he worked it out from the previous statements in our Mishnah. What were the previous statements in our Mishnah? The previous statements in our Mishnah was of Chanina, who talked not about burning chametz, but about burning kodshim that became Tomei. And Chanina said you're allowed to burn kodshim which is Tomei with kodshim which is toy, even though in the process you're going to make it Tomei. So Rameir says, I've learned it from his words. The Gemara was not happy with that. Does anybody remember? Why can Rameir not learn it from Rabbi Chanina? Why not? Why can't he? He learned it from Rabbi Chanina. What's wrong with Divrei Lomadu? That was the question we had yesterday. I'm sure you spent all night. Right, to get on the fridge. Why was it not happening? Chanina says you can burn kodshim which is Tomei, kodshim which is toy. So let me burn Truma which is toy and Truma which is Tomei. Sorry, Chanina said kodshim which is a bit Tomei with a very Tomei. So what's very good. When it's a different level of Tumah, where either piece of meat is Tomei, so Chanina says I'm allowed to burn it. But there's more here. But in our Mishnah, when you're trying to actually burn toy with Tomei, that is awesome. So the Gemara says you can't learn it from Chanina. Let's get this question very, very clear. Rameir said, I learned from Chanina. What did you learn from Chanina? You're allowed to burn chametz which is Tomei with chametz which is Tomei. No, you can't. Well, Chanina was talking about different levels of Tumah. Fine. One more Tomei, less Tomei. Who cares? Burn it together. But you're talking about Torah and Tomei. How dare you burn it together? So how can you, Rameir, say such thing you learned from Chanina? That was the question. The Gemara gave an answer. I'm not going to go into the details of the answer, but the gist of the answer was that Rabbi Chanina was not just talking about something which is different levels of Tumah, like you said. He was also similar, but he was also talking about something which is Tomei min HaTorah with something which is Tomei midrabanan. And even that you're allowed to burn together. Now, when you burn something which is Tomei Min HaTorah, with something which is Tomei Midrabanan, on the end of the day, the thing which is Tomei Midrabanan is now going to become Tomei Min HaTorah. Now, Min HaTorah, if you had to have any Min HaTorah glasses on, you would say it's not Tomei at all, because it's only Tomei Midrabanan. So you're actually taking something which Min HaTorah is Tohoi, and burning it together with something which Min HaTorah is Tomei, and that is no good. So therefore, Rameir said, if you're allowed to do that by Kodshim, you're allowed to do that by Chometz. That is what the Gemara suggested yesterday. Rashi says, it goes a great length, but it's the same logical, that he says like this, just like Chanina said, when something is Tomei Min HaDurabanan, since we do Rabbanan, it is Tomei, you're allowed to burn something which is Tomei Min HaTorah, says Rameir the same thing of the 6th hour of Pesach. In the 6th hour, when you're doing the burning, is it also to be eaten Min HaTorah or Midrabanan?
In the 6th hour.
Yeah. Midrabanan. So therefore, it's only Midrabanan forbidden to eat. Says Rameir, just like this is also Midrabanan to eat, so Min HaTorah it's fine, but Midrabanan is forbidden to eat, it's the same as Tumah D'Rabbanan of Rab Chanina. And since Rab Chanina said I'm allowed to burn Truma, Kodshim, which is Tomei Midrabanan, Kodshim, which is Tomei Min HaTorah, I'm allowed to also burn the Chometz, which is also Midrabanan, together with Chometz, with Truma, which is properly Tom. That is how we said it. Yeah, if we have a problem about burning early, Rashi will discuss that later. Yes, is that what you want to ask as well? About burning early would be a problem. According to this, you'd only be allowed to burn it. That's a very, very good point, actually. According to this, you'd only allowed to burn it in the 6th hour. If you want to be burning it a bit earlier, since we do Rabbanan, it is not forbidden, you'd have a problem with burning it, because now it's completely mutter. It's like taking normal fine tumor and burning. Like, for example, now, this is very hard. Lemaisa, you're wrong. You're allowed to even burn it early. Do you remember anybody discussing that? We went through it. Unfortunately, this is the Gemara told us earlier that if Erev Pesach is a Shabbos, when do you burn your Chometz? If I like this, when do you burn your Chometz? On the 13th. And the Brisa there says you burn. You look at it in Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. You burn. Sorry, Yud Gimel Amud Beis. Where is it? No. So. No. So Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. It says the Tanya Abos Shchalos b'Shabbos b'Vanes Hakol Milifnei HaShabbos v'Sofen Tumos Temeyos Tzeluyos v'Tahiros. You burn Tomei, Toy, and Sofik Tumah. So not like what you're saying. So Tosfos asks that kasha. We'll come to it. What are you going to when you're going to burn it? You can't burn it on Shabbos. There's a mitzvah of Biur Chometz. You leave over there. Okay. So that is. Oh, but you still, there's Mishmeres Trumosai tells us 2 halachas. Don't get rid of it, don't make it Tomei. So Shai said, how can you burn it before the 6th hour with something which is Tomei? But they see from the Gemara that you can't. Okay, we'll come to it more later. Let's just get clear. So now the Gemara is going to give a whole different mahalach. The whole different mahalach is as follows. That Rameir never understood anything from Rab Chanina. And Rameir that came up with this big chiddush. What's the chiddush of Rameir? What's the chiddush of Rameir in 5 words? That you're allowed to burn Tumah Tahira with Tumah Tamei on Erev Pesach. That chiddush was not from Rab Chanina. It was from a different source altogether. Omar Rish Lakish. Rashi says Rish Lakish did not like this answer, which we said till now. It's unlikely, says Rish Lakish, to make a doichik in our Mishnah. We talk about Kodshim, which is Tomei Deraisa, Tomei D'Rabbanan mixed together. The Mishnah didn't mention anything of the sort. This is unlike that pshat. So Omar Rish Lakish to Kapor Maslisim Ba'ava Tomei Deraisa V'Lada Tomei Deraisa. We're talking about Ava Tumah Deraisa V'Lada Tumah Deraisa. And if it's Ava Tumah Deraisa V'Lada Tumah Deraisa, so therefore it's obviously allowed to burn them together. And therefore the question comes back: where did Rameir learn that you're allowed to burn Tomei, like you asked? Or he learned it from a different place altogether. So the obvious question is, if you learned it from a different place altogether, why would the Mishnah first tell us Rab Chanina, then Rabbi Akiva, and then Rameir saying B'divrei Lomad? That's the question. We shouldn't discuss it. We'll see it later more. The simple pshat is that Rameir was telling us halacha in Tumah v'Tahara. So they wanted to introduce the idea that there is such a concept of burning things which are different levels. So therefore we said first the Shut of Chanina, then Rabbi Akiva. And let's imagine it's a new Mishnah. Midivayim from the halachas that I once heard, Lomad we have learned, but not Midivayim which I just quoted. Midivayim from a different place. Says the Gemara, hi Rabbi Yeshua, which Rabbi Yeshua? I'm going to go through Shas now to find the Rabbi Yeshua that tells us a raya that what you're allowed to do. Very good. You're allowed to burn Tumah Tamei, which is Chometz Erev Pesach. Ilem Rabbi Yeshua. This is not Chometz Shel Tumah Shnei Lo Sofik Tumah. You've got truma, which is sofek tummy. Rashi in Bechiras puts it very nicely. I don't know Rashi here doesn't. The chovish of truma, which is sofek tuma, is actually the worst of both worlds. Imagine you give a kohen sofek tummy tuma. He'll be very disappointed. If it's tohoi, what will he do? Eat it. If it's tummy, what will he do? Burn it, and at least it won't be cold in the cold wintry night. If it's sofek tummy, what's he going to do? Can't eat it, maybe it's tummy, not allowed to eat tummy, tuma, tummy. It's also deraisa to eat. So and you can't burn it because maybe it's toy. So what's he going to do? No, you can't do sicha either. No, you can't go to his animals. Maybe it's toy. If it's toy, you can't go to animals. Even better, not that which you can eat, not machal adam, not that which can be eaten. Oh, very good. Wait for it to become definitely tummy. And then,
can you help that process? Can you make it?
Oh, that's the question. Can he help the process make it definitely tummy? That's the shine over here. If it was an exposed place, you have to put it in a secluded spot, which is not going to help the process of making a tummy. It's going to delay it. If it was, let's say, an open bowl, you have to cover it. Can you imagine such a thing? He's desperate for it to become tummy, and what we're telling him, hide it, cover it. Rabbi Shiur, if the bowl is in a secluded spot, and put it in an exposed spot. If it's covered, you can reveal it. So what's Rabbi Shiur telling me? If I've got a bowl sofek tummy, I'm allowed to help the process to make it tummy, and thereby I can use it. So Rameir said, if you're allowed to make something which is sofek tuma, make it vadai tummy by exposing it, so too I'm allowed to burn tuma tahira with tuma tameo nel pesach. And there's a few questions. I'll go straight away asks. Why? What's your question? Why? Oh, there's a few differences. What's the difference you're thinking of? One's a sofek. This is a sofek. There's a vadai. That's a very good question.
One, you're not doing it.
The Gemara says your answer. They're not doing it by your dime. You're just moving it to an area where it's more likely for dead shells to fall in. But you're not actually making a tummy. What you're doing is no. The fact is, I'm not doing anything myself. I move it from my loft, which is very secluded, and I put it in my porch. I'm not actually made a tummy. In the porch, it's more likely to have dead shrotzim falling in. That's the Gemara's answer. The question is, Moshe's question is very important, is why did the Gemara not give a much easier answer? That he's about sofek and he was talking about bad. The Rishonim asked the question. That's what Tony is trying to say. But I was saying, no, it is true. He's not allowed to make it tummy. He's not allowed to destroy it. But here, all he's doing is helping.
He's got to look up to make sure it doesn't become a tummy.
Yeah.
Not that he's not as an.
How far? Yeah. How far does that chiyuv go? That's the question. Okay. The question is, okay, yeah, it's a whole. But Moshe's question, more to the point, is what there's suffering. The answer is, and we should even say that over here we're talking about something which is chometz, which is osam midrabanan. So therefore, the Gemara having understood at least that something which is osam midrabanan is already problematic, and therefore it should have a similar status to something which is sofek tummy, which you just don't know what to do with it. I mean, you could be mechalek, as we said, but the Gemara anyway straight away gives a much better answer. The Gemara says, Midami, how can you compare? Hosam groma balma. There, it's just by groma, you're causing it. Here, you're literally making it tummy by mixing tuma tahira with tuma tameo to burn it. So you can't compare. So Rameir, when he said midivem lomanu, was not referring to that Rabbi Yeshua. So more because another story. Elahol Rabbi Yeshua did not. Here we have a complicated situation. It's like this. You've got a wine press. Wine press, what Rashi describes, a huge, like, swimming pool, massive pit. And on top of it, there was a platform, on top of this, where you would store the grapes and the wines and things like that, and you'd squeeze them, and they would dribble down into your big pit. Right? That was the wine press. Now imagine you've got chulin temen. You've got a wine, a big, let's call it a pool of wine of chulin, which is not kaddish, which is tummy. Can you use it? Yes, of course you can. Chulin, which is tummy, is perfect. We're all every single day probably eating chulin, which is tummy. The chances that our food is toy is very unlikely. So there's nothing wrong with it. A kohen can eat it. Anybody can eat it. You can't eat it, then you can't take it to Beis Hamikdash. You can eat it, fine. So chulin tummy is fine. Right. We alert Shabbos, you become Tommy, you have to go to mikvah, and then you go to the Beis Hamikdash. Right. On top of it,
Other than the Beis Hamikdash,
other Beis Hamikdash, no problem. You can eat it every day. Oh, you can't eat it and then eat truma straight away afterwards. Right. That's it. Now, on top of it, you had a big barrel of truma wine, which is toy. So you got truma wine, which is toy on top, chulin wine, which is tommy at the bottom. Truma tahira, can you drink it?
Yeah.
Of course, every Kohen can drink it. No, you saw, but every Kohen can drink it. So at the moment, you're very happy. Truma tahira on top on the platform, chulin to main at the bottom in the pool. No, it's underneath. You got a platform in between, and the barrel on top smashes, and it's now going to flow into the bottom pool. And you're going to have in the bottom pool a mixture of chulin tamein with truma tahira. And what are you going to be able to do with that? Absolutely nothing. The truma comes tummy, so nobody's allowed to eat it, and it gets mixed into the chulin. So nobody can do it. A soul can't eat it when he's tummy, because at the end of the day there's truma mixed inside it. The Kohen can't eat it because before it was toy, but wine got mixed together. And therefore, it is tamei truma because the wine got mixed with the truma. So by the wine pouring down, you've lost it. There's nothing. You've lost both barrels. You've lost both your pool and your barrel on top. Now there is a solution: is to take toy cups, run there, stand underneath the platform, and catch the wine. And if you can do that, that's the best of all. Let's say, let's say you've got no toy kelim anywhere. You haven't got any toy. You can't find at the spur of the moment anything toy. There's nothing toy. You found something tommy. It does. No.
The liquid inside.
No, truma you can't be poured onto coins. Only nice.
What's inside it isn't.
No, we didn't say that. That's usually by truma it would make tummy. Oh, that's the shiloh. You've got no toy kalim to get a hold of. You've only got tommy kalim. So the question is, you want to catch it. What do you gain by catching it with Tomei Kalim? You can use the bottom wine. You won't be able to use the top wine, because if you catch it with Tomei Kalim, the top barrel was said is Truma Tahira. You catch it with Tomei Kalim, you won't be able to do anything with it. But at least the bottom pool, you'll be able to, before it dripped in. So therefore, like this, you want to catch it. So the question is, catching it with Tomei Kalim, perfect. Tomei Kalim, you'll gain nothing regarding the Truma, you'll save the bottom. The problem is, if you leave it, it will become tummy by itself as it drips into the bottom. But if you catch it, you yourself are causing it to become tummy. It's a matter of a split second between when it's dripping down that it's going to become tummy by falling into the pool at the bottom, which is tummy. Yeah, but you're making it tummy half a second earlier because you're putting a kili, which is tummy, and catching the truma, which is. Oh. Very good. That's exactly what the Gemara says. The Meir said that according to the man to Omar, that you're allowed to catch it, is a raya that doesn't matter because no worse than making a tummy which you're going to burn in a minute's time. Says the Gemara inside.
Is there a limit, minimum? If the truma wine will mix into the chometz, but only a certain amount. Sorry, the chulin.
Yeah.
Is there a minimum amount, or once even
no? Is there a minimum amount? 101. No, 101. 101. It's bottom. Yeah, there's better. There's better. That's right. If the chavis is very small, you're fine. There's better. Yeah, if the chavis is very small, or let's say only a little bit drips in, you're fine. It's only if it's 100. I don't know. That's complicated. If each drip falls by itself. No, it's not. Well, you don't have to know if you did damage it. If it broke by itself. I mean, if it mixed, if you eat the thing, but I'm saying if it doesn't become butter, the whole thing becomes also, it's not your fault. Let's see inside. Let's go off the point. Hello, Rabbi Yishua. It's done. Chavis of truma shnishbo begasa elyoino. Chavis of truma that got broken in the top, but tachtoni underneath it chulin tamein. Underneath it is tamei chulin. So Moedu Ablez Rabbi Yishua, both of them agree. If you've got enough time to save even just one revius with Torah Kelim Yatzil, you have to save it because you have the ability to save it. If you can't even get a revius of Torah, that means if you're going to get one revius of Torah, you have to lose your entire pool of Chulin Tamein because you have to go around looking for a Chulin Torah. So for a Kelim which is Torah, just to be able to save that one revius. The fact that you could find quicker Tomei ones and save much more, that doesn't matter. Since you can save one revius per tara, you're mechuyev to do so. Vimlav. If you're never going to be able to save anything, you've got literally not a single toy keli around, you're not going to be able to save even the reveres. So there's no ability over here to save anything. Let the whole thing trip, make the whole thing tummy, and you will not gain anything. You've lost it all. So now this is going to be eventually the maskana, one of the shot from the Gemara. It comes out like this. Rameir said, I see from Rabbi Yeshua that what? That I'm allowed to make things tummy half a second before they become tummy. Why? In order to save my chulin at the bottom. So too, to save myself the effort of making 2 bonfires, I'm allowed to burn truma tahira over truma tameo. That's the right. That's what Rameir said when he said "B'tivayim" from those words lamad. What do you mean?
In the case of the wine, you'll be saving one.
Well, the word asked later, what are you saving? But you could obviously saving yourself making 2 bonfires.
You're saving 2 bonfires, yeah.
You're saving the wine on the bottom. The wine on the bottom, if you don't save the top, you're not going to save the top. You're saving at least to be able to drink the wine on the bottom. And then you're saving yourself making 2 bonfires. You feel the word, yeah? You feel the word. Hi, mitivayim. Divayim is plural. Mitvovi boyale. You should say mitvorov because it's only Rabbi Yeshua. Lezer forbids it. From the argument, Lezer Rabbi Yeshua lo man. Rashi explains that we have a principle that we never pass like Rabbi Lezer. Does anybody know why we don't pass like Rabbi Lezer? Never pass like him. Yeah, we chucked out this medrash. Why was he chucked out this medrash? It's like that's right. He had miracles in the Baskur that said that Allah is like Rabbi Lezer. We don't pass like him because he once said about a certain oven that it is toy, and everybody else held that it was Tommy, and he didn't. He refused to think. So we don't pass like Rabbi Lezer. So he said like this: from the argument, I can work it out. Why from the argument can I work it out? Since from the argument we pass like Rabbi Yeshua, and Rabbi Yeshua permits it. So if I hear a discussion between 2 people, and I know we only agree with one, so from their argument we come to that thing.
Slightly different though.
Why?
In the case of the wine, you're preventing one from mixing the other.
Right.
With this in the burning, you're actually mixing them together.
But when you take your cup and put it underneath there to catch, you're taking a tummy cup, putting it underneath the wine, and making a tummy. So it says, well, Deikadami, it's Mudurk. The Mishnah continues, Rabbi Lezer and Yeshua I agree. Shmami, no, it's a proof that we're discussing the shittas of Lezer and Yeshua. Because if we're discussing the shittas, Rabbi Chanina, etc., why is Rabbi Lezer and Yeshua coming into our Mishnah? The Rabbi Chanina is going to occur in when he talked about burning different parts of Kodshim. He was talking about Tumah Deraisa, Tumah Deraisa. And if that's the case, you can't learn anything from Chanina's Kanakonim. Why can't you learn anything from Chanina's Kanakonim? Because he's talking about something which is already Tomei, doing something else which is already Tomei. So Amir didn't learn anything from him. Okay. And this is a very important point. If Rabbi Chanina was talking about something which is already Tomei Midiraisa, being burned to something else which is Tomei Midiraisa, so Amir can't use him as a support. Because what did Amir learn from Chanina? He can't learn anything from him. Only if you say that he was talking about Tumah D'Rabbanan, Tumah D'Oraisa, is there a chance to learn from it. But this man Dama learns that Chanina was talking about Tumah D'Oraisa, and therefore we can't bring any support to him at all. He's bringing it to right from Lezer and Bishra. The question is basically going to be: is Rameir said that you're allowed to burn Tumah Torah, Tumah Tamei on the Pesach? Rabbi says you're not allowed to, and Rabbi Yossi says to him, "I disagree with you, and the proofs that you're bringing are useless." And he explains why the proofs are no good. And we see from Rabbi Yossi obviously knew what Rameir's proof was. Pashtus knew. So therefore, if we see that Rabbi Yossi says to Rameir, your proofs are no good, and he doesn't mention Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua, so obviously Rameir's proof was never from Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua. If you're saying, Pshat that Mishnah is Rameir saying my proof is Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua, so Rabbi Yossi should say to him, your proof from Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua is no good. What does Rabbi Yossi say to him? Your proof from Chanina's Kanakonim is no good. So obviously Rameir's proof was not from there. Let's see inside. You can't compare the 2 cases. What did they give Eidos about? If we talk about meat that got burnt to Vlada Tumah, with meat that got burnt with Avad Tumah, Zed Tumah, Vized Tumah, you can't compare because Chanina is going to talk about something which is already Tumah. And if you're going to say from a Akiva, you bring your proof. That we talk about oil that got burnt that you get burnt with a candle. That it's meis. They're both also no good. I agree with you with too much litmus with blood, too much surface, too much litmus tumah. I would concede to you that on Erev Pesach, if you've got tumah which is a weaker tumah, and tumah which is a higher tumah, and you want to burn the two together on Erev Pesach, that I'll agree with you. But how would you prove from Chanina and from Re'akiva that you're allowed to burn Sofek Tomei with a Vadai Tomei? Let's stop for a moment to understand this. Rameir said you're allowed to burn Tomei Truma with Torah Truma. And he proved it. Mitivim, I learned from the words. Rabbi Yossi came along and said to him, no, you can't learn it. Rabbi Chanina, you can't learn it because it's Tomei and Tomei. Rabbi Akiva, you can't learn it because it's Posel and Tomei. And you're trying to take something which is Torah and Tomei and burn it together. In fact, Rabbi Yossi actually says the question's even worse, because if you look carefully in the words of Rabbi Yossi, it says Tluya. Tluya is Sofek Tomei. Meaning that Rabbi Yossi said to him, even Sofek Tomei, I would not allow you to burn with Vadai Tomei. Kavachima, you, that you're trying to make something which is Torah be burned with Tomei, that I would never agree with. So therefore we see from Rabbi Yossi very, very clearly that where did Rameir learn his halacha from? Where did Rameir learn his halacha from? Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Akiva. Not from a lesson of Rabbi Yeshua. Because if Rameir was learning from a lesson of Rabbi Yeshua, why was Rabbi Yossi saying to him, your proof from Rabbi Chanina is no good? Rameir never came up with that proof. Now, Rabbi Yossi, this brisa continues seemingly with a new topic, and later the will perhaps suggest that there was a connection. Rashi, at least, if you looked up Rashi to Slavim in place, let's see Rashi top of this. We're up to the top of this. I figure we don't need this, and beside my brisa, we just finish off a brisa. That's Rashi top of the page. The Mishnah tells us now. The brisa tells us another thing. There's three things that are korban that make it no good. You have it in Tzvachim many times. Pigul is what? Is if a person shechts a korban with intention to eat it or to burn it on the mizbeach on the wrong day. He didn't actually do anything wrong. It means he ate it the right day, he put it on the mizbeach the right day, but his intention at the time of the shechita was to eat it on the wrong day. Just intention is no good. Noisa is actually if he didn't eat it on the right day, but rather he thought he'll eat it on the right day, but he never got around to eating it on the right day, so that's called noisa. And Tomei is a kohen who became Tomei. Now, Chazal made Pigul Noisa Tomei Midrabanan. This is a very strange gezerah they made, that all Pigul and all Noisa is Tomei Midrabanan. The Gemara much later tells us, why would they make Pigul and Noisa Tomei? Does anybody know? No, it's very oscillated in that too, it's oscillated. But they're not likely to make it much more worse. What? Except for the other food, but it's very awesome in that too. It's okay. It's very strange. It's an interesting gezerah. There were Kohanim that were lazy, and they won't bother thinking the right thoughts, and they won't bother eating the korbanos. So they made pigul anoisa. So what happened was Chazal said, "We'll make the korban tummy." Kohanim didn't want them to come tummy. It's a big pain in the neck to take the truma. So by making all pigul anoisa tummy midrabanan, they made it a very light tumah. That only the hands become tummy, nothing else. Okay. The Ma'aseh says, "Got."
How do you quantify
Pigul is anything.
No, I mean, how would you know? Pigul? You can't.
Ask the Kohen, what was he thinking when he shechted it?
Sure. They didn't say he's going to do it.
There is a sugya. What happens if the Kohen tells us afterwards? But we have to rely on what the Kohen says. Again, so Pigul Anosavat Tomei. You've got these three. Yeah, any four. Anyway, basically. So you've got three things which are no good. You can't burn them together. You can't burn them together. So we've got a question, Pigul Anosavat Tomei, allowed to burn them together or not? We pass like Bisila, that you can't burn them together. Says the Gemara like this. That was just the brisa that we quoted. If you think, like we just explained, Rameir's proof is Rabbi Yeshua. If Rameir learned it from Rabbi Yeshua, why is Rabbi Yossi replying to him? No, you're wrong. Rabbi Yeshua never said it. So Nachman replied to him as this. Rabbi Yossi misunderstood Rameir. That means Rameir said, I knew I've worked it out from his words. And what happened was, Rabbi Yossi misunderstood. Rabbi Yossi thought that Rameir was trying to prove it from who? From Chadis Kanakanim. And therefore he said to him, you're wrong, you can't prove it from Chadis Kanakanim. Why? Because they talk about Tomei and Tomei, you talk about Torah and Tomei. Rameir said to him, I wasn't trying to prove it from Chadis Kanakanim, I was trying to prove it from Ablezer. So Rameir says, Rabbi Yossi, Lavadate, who saw Rameir with the Chadis Kanakanim coming? So Meir replied to him, I know it's Rabbi Shua. I mean, I understood it from Rabbi Shua. So Rabbi Yossi replied to him, if that's the case, I feel Rabbi Shua nami ena minami the moide Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Shua she said zu b'ftei atzmo zu b'ftei atzmo. That means it was a two-way conversation. What happened was like this. Meir said, I know from the words of the Chachamim, you're allowed to burn Truma Tahor, Truma Tamei. Came up Rabbi Yossi said, you think Rabbi Chidis going to kill him? How can you compare? Rabbi Chidis going to kill him about Tomei and Tomei, you to have Torah and Tomei. So Meir said to him, no, you're wrong. I'm learning from Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Shua. Which Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Shua? Where the wine is dripping down into the tummy, and you're allowed to save it with Tomei Kelim. Rabbi Shua said to me, Rabbi Yossi, you're wrong. Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Shua would agree that you're not allowed to burn Truma Tahor, Truma Tamei on Erev Pesach. You're wrong for saying such a thing. Says the Gemara, why is it not? It's a very good comparison. What was wrong with Meir's comparison? Let's think about his comparison again. Meir says, just like you've told me, that when you've got a bowl of Truma Tahor, which is broken, and it's dripping slowly but steadily into a Tomei pool of wine, of chulin, where by the time it finishes dripping in, I'm going to be forbidden to drink any of it. Because once it's mixed, I'm going to have Truma Tahor with chulin tamei mixed. I won't be able to drink any of it. Says Rabbi Shua, therefore, you're allowed to take a cup, catch the wine, thereby saving the bottom, even though you're actually making Truma Tahor Tomei. You're actually being metamei Truma Tahor b'yadayim. The reason being, because anyway, it's going to get lost. Since anyway going to get lost, therefore I'm allowed to. So says Rabbi, if that's the case on Erev Pesach, I'm allowed to burn Truma Tahor with Truma Tamei together, because even though I'm making it Tomei, but anyway the fire is going to consume it in a matter of moments. So what was wrong with the right? Rabbi say to me, you can't compare. Answers the Gemara, Shani Hossam de Gehefset Chulin, because there you're going to lose the Chulin, because there it's a huge financial loss. If you don't save your Truma Tamei, you're going to end up with having no Chulin to be able to eat. Says the Gemara, making two bonfires, you have to produce much more wood. So therefore, making one bonfire is much easier. So there's also a loss. So that's something. So he said, for a big loss, they were concerned. For a small loss, they were not concerned. Right, that's a good question. Right, so let's just get the Mishnah clear according to this whole matter. It comes like this, very, very briefly. Rabbi Chanina came along and said, you're allowed to burn Tomei, which is Deiraisa, with Tomei, which is Deiraisa, just different levels of Tumah. Rabbi Akiva said you're allowed to burn Truma, which is Tomei, Truma, which is Pasul, different levels of Deiraisa. Rabbi Meir came along and said you're allowed to burn Truma Tahor with Truma Tamei. Could you have learned it from Chanina? No. Because Chanina is Torah said which is properly Tomei. Both are Tomei Deiraisa, and he's Torah said which is Torah and Tomei. So Rabbi Meir really learned it from Rabbi Yeshua, who says you're allowed to take a cup and save Truma Tamei b'yodayim, because you don't want to save the financial loss of the bottom line. And so too, you want to save the financial effort of and the wood and all the effort of making two bonfires. Came along and basically said to him, from Rabbi Chanina, you've got no proof because he's about Tomei and Tomei, and you're talking about Torah and Tomei. And from your proof is also no good because there it's a real financial loss. Your case is not a real financial loss, and therefore it's forbidden. That is the summary of the sugya which we've had from Daf Yudalet till here. Now the Gemara is going to give a completely different mahalach in the Mishnah, a completely different story. Now I'll say to this bit outside. That the Mishnah is talking about kodshim. Of Chanina was said that you're allowed to burn two kinds of kodshim together. He was talking about kodshim which is tomei min hatova, with the kodshim which is tomei min d'rabbanan. With the kodshim that is tomei min d'rabbanan, and therefore said Rabbi Meir that if you're allowed to burn something which min hatova is not tomei, because min hatova is not tomei, with something which min hatova is tomei, is a raya that we don't care. And therefore, you're allowed to burn on Erev Pesach Truma Tamei with Truma Tahor. And according to this malach, they understood that there's no difference between something which is awesome midrabanan, like chametz is on the shor shishis, it's awesome to be eaten midrabanan, to something which is tomei midrabanan. In the end of the day, what's the svor of something which is awesome midrabanan? It's not useful. You can't eat it. Tomei midrabanan also can't be eaten. So Chadina's going to occur in him says, I've got an absolute proof from you. Therefore, what would happen? The shor sent this, Yosi disagrees, and he says, no, you're doing an Issa Deiraisa. What's the Issa Deiraisa you're doing? Because you're taking Truma Tahor and you're burning it with Truma Tamei, which is an Issa Deiraisa, and that you can't do. Now, Sheikh by Truma, it's already Tomei. You can't compare Tumah to Issa that much. But the Shor Shvius, when it comes to the 7th hour, Rabbi Yossi agrees. Even according to the second Baruch, which we're going to in a minute, in the 7th hour, Rabbi Yossi agrees. Why would Rabbi Yossi agree in the 7th hour? Because that is Asr B'Doraisa. Even it's not just Asr B'Doraisa, it's Asr B'Doraisa. Since it's Asr B'Doraisa, it's nothing. So therefore, you are allowed to metamid. Let's think more a bit because more also it is in the Rashi. Omar Vasi Mabrichna. Machlokas b'sheish. The whole argument was by 6. Ava b'sheva dibaka. So from the 7th hour, everybody agrees allowed to put it. Omar Abzira Vasi. Name. Let us say. Let's explain as follows. Kosova Rabbi Yechida Masnisim Bava Tumah Doraisa Vada Tumah Dorabono. That Rabbi Chanina's Kenim was talking about another Tumah Doraisa piece of kochim which was Tomim in our Torah, Vada Tumah Dorabono, the piece of kochim which was Tomim Dorabonon, which you're trying to burn together. Umayim Medivreim, and Rameir said Medivreim, he didn't mean Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Shua. Because they were talking about something which is awesome with Rabbanon, Stomach Rabbanon, the outer burns which is awesome with Torah. So too, Chometz Lev Pesach, the tumah is Torah completely. The Midrabbanon, because it's Chometz, I can't eat it. So if I'm allowed to burn it with tumah to me, indeed, that's Pshat Rabbi Yechon. It's Menami. Rabbi Yechon must listen about tumah to Raisa. Rather tumah to Rabbanon. My Medivreim Cheninas Kana Koyanim. Machlokas b'sheish. The 7th hour, everybody's allowed to burn it. So it comes out like this, that the reason is, right, so it comes out like this, that once there's an Issa, that means according to Rameir, we say Issa D'Rabbanon and Tumah D'Rabbanon is the same. So just like Mechidin is allowed me to burn something which is Tomei Midrabbanon with something which is Tomei Midoraisa, because Midrabbanon is useless. So too Chometz Lev Pesach, when in the 6th hour it is also Midrabbanon, I'm allowed to burn something which is also allowed to burn it with something which is Tomei Midoraisa. Says Walema Messiah. Let us prove this logic of Rabbi Yochanan. That what? That in the 7th hour you're allowed to burn things together. Now, it's a bit of a chiddush. They're allowed to burn things with Minata, even Rabbi Yossi. Let's consider it very carefully. Comes the 7th hour of El Pesach, and you've got a piece of chometz which is Truma Tahorim. Min HaTorah, you're allowed to eat it? No, it's also Min HaTorah. You want to burn it now with Truma Tameah. According to the original Malach we had, it's no good. Why is it no good? Because even though you're not allowed to eat it, but at the end of the day, who says you're allowed to make it tummy? It is also to be eaten, it's not tummy. It's like you've got something which you've got a problem with it. It's not tummy. You're going to make it tummy. That's a problem. Rabbi Yochanan said, no. Since Min HaTorah it's not allowed to be eaten, because at the end of the day it's chometz. So therefore, the fact that making it tummy is okay. Says, I'm going to prove this logic. What's the logic? Let me Messiah. You can't burn them together. You are allowed to burn them together. Now, we paskin like Bisham V'Sila. We paskin like V'Sila laws. V'Sila say allowed to burn pigul, noisa, and tummy together. Think about it. The pigul, you're not allowed to eat it. Min HaTorah is forbidden to be eaten. Is it tummy? Is pigul tummy min HaTorah? No, it's 100% Torah min HaTorah. You're going to burn them together. V'Sila say allowed to burn them together. When you burn them together, what are you going to do to the pigul? Make it tummy. How can you? What's the head of making it? The answer is, once something is forbidden in HaTorah, it's as if it's no longer relevant. The mitzvah of mishmeres to Moisai, the mitzvah of being shomer, it is gone. And therefore I'm allowed to make it tummy. Oh, that's what's going to be doing. But Pashas Nahamina, let's get to Hamina. Pashas involved is that because it is also to be eaten. So it comes out that both Rameir and Rabbi Yossi agree that if something is truly forbidden, you're allowed to make it tummy. The only argument between Rameir and Rabbi Yossi is only in the 6th hour. Where Rabbi Yossi says to Rameir, excuse me, it's not yet awesome without it to eat, it's only awesome with Rabbanon. And Rameir says, what? It's awesome with Rabbanon. It's still good enough for me, the fact it's awesome with Rabbanon. But when it comes to the 7th hour, which everybody agrees it's awesome with that Torah, so then Rabbi Yossi is happy with Rameir. So therefore, once they've got a proof for Pigul Nisa and Tommy. Says the Gemara, Shani Hassam, the Isnu Tumah with Rabbanon, have Tumah with Rabbanon. The Tana Pigul Avissam and Tommy, when something say you die, make it Tommy when I die. That means they make the hands Tommy. Now, this is a bit difficult because even though you were saying it, the truth of the matter is you have to think about it like this. Does Rabbi Yossi hold that Issa to Rabbanon is good? No, because Rabbi Yossi holds that the 6th hour you're not allowed to burn Tumah Torah Tumah Tmei. So Pigul and Issa and Tomei, the Pigul min HaTorah is Tohoi, and therefore he's nevertheless, the Brisa says you're allowed to burn them together. So you're adding that there's Tumah D'Rabbanan. Who cares there's Tumah D'Rabbanan? Obviously ignores Tumah D'Rabbanan. He's only interested in Deraisas.
So the person has to say that it's like this.
So obviously the Shlomo will say is that it's a combination of the two together. Since Minhat Torah it is forbidden to be eaten, and it's anyway a shtickle tomei, so therefore you're allowed to. Masha ain't came by the 7th hour of Chometz, where it's 100% toy. Who says that you're allowed to make it tomei? The end of the day, it's got no tumah at all, not even D'Rabbanan. It's very hard to understand how that works, but because it's got episode tumah, it's got no tumah at all. Says well, let's try to bring another proof. The halacha is that only food catches and transfers tumah. If you got a piece of earth in your back garden and a dead person touches it, the earth does not become tumah and does not transmit tumah. Only food does. If you've got something which is inedible for a human being and only a dog can eat it, is that called edible or not edible? Inedible. It's inedible. Only a dog can eat it. It's not edible. So therefore, if a dead person touches, let's say I don't know what you got, dog biscuits, which only a dog can eat it, and a dead person touches it, it doesn't catch tumah, it doesn't spread tumah. Now, what happens if you got a piece of bread which is edible? And then what happened was it got moldier, and now only a dog can eat it. But when it was edible, a dead person touched it. So here we say that it stays tummy. Why? Because had it become not a food at all, it turned into dust. Okay, it's not tummy. Had it originally been only dog food, it won't be tummy. But here, originally it was human food, and therefore became tummy. Now you want the tumah to go away. For the tumah to go away, it has to have no connection to food whatsoever. And since a dog can eat it, it still has some sort of tumah. So let's sit inside. Let me say that bread that got moldy, a human being can't eat it. It becomes tummy. If it is toy, that means if it's toy, not if it's tummy. If it's toy, I gave you a piece of truma, nice bread, and you never ate it. You got moldier, and now only a dog can eat it. Now you want to know, can I burn it with chometz? The halacha is yes. Even though if the chometz is tummy. Now, it's a raya that once something can't be eaten, you're allowed to make it tummy. It's a raya to Rabbi Yochanan's shitta that in the 7th hour when something can't be eaten, you're allowed to make it tummy. Just like once the truma is inedible, you're allowed to make it tummy. Also in the 7th hour, when it's inedible because the Torah says so, it's also. It says, well, no, you can't compare. Shani Asam the Afal Ba'almahu, it's dust. Since it is dust, meaning there's a difference between a halachic issa and a physical issa. When it's a halachic issa, you've got no raya that you're allowed to make it tummy, and could very well be not like a bircha. It could be that even in the 7th hour you're not allowed to make it tummy. Why? Since it's toy, you're making it tummy. Who says you may? Masha'in came something which is no longer food, that perhaps you are allowed to make it tummy. Oh, that's interesting. Yes, that's interesting. What's the difference? The answer is the gabish mishmeres trumoisa. It's a mitzvah on something which is a din truma, which is a food of truma. Once it's not a food, it's not a here, when the Torah says don't eat it, doesn't take away from the concept that it's food. It says what Yachi my moida. What's the connection from Elazar and Rabbi Shua being moida? If Rabbi Meir learned it from Rabbi Akiva, what does it mean? Sorry, he learned it from Chaninas Kanakonim. What does it mean moida? That means like this: the first malach we had originally, where did Rabbi Meir learn it from Elazar and Rabbi Shua's argument? Rabbi Yosef disagreed with him, and he said moida they agree about a different thing. But it's good he mentioned Rabbi Elazar and Shua because Rabbi Meir himself indirectly was actually mentioning Rabbi Elazar and Shua. But now that you say that Rabbi Meir has never based his theories on Rabbi Elazar and Shua, he based his theory on Rabbi Chanina. Why did Rabbi Yosef come along and say to Moed Rabbi Elazar and Shua? It says, it means Rashi explains. Rabbi Yosef said to Rabbi Meir like this: I don't agree with you at all. I believe that your comparison to Chaninas Kanakonim is incorrect. And not only is your comparison to Chaninas Kanakonim incorrect, but even Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shua, which you could have perhaps used as a source, even they don't agree. Even they don't agree with you. That means he's saying to you, not only is the source that you're using no good, but even the other places. Afilu Rabbi Shua de meikol, even Rabbi Shua is meikol. He meikol betzluya betzmeya. When you mix suffix tomei with vadai tomei, that you're allowed to. But Torah betzmeya loy. But Torah tomei you're not allowed to. Very the Gemara. Now says Rashi, unbelievable cheshbon. Now the Rabbi Yossi agrees that in the 7th hour, What does Rabbi Yossi say? What's the din? You're allowed to burn it. So the 6th hour, why did you say not allowed to? Because it's only Asr B'Drabanan. But Rabbi Chanina's Ganakonim was talking about Kodshim, which were only Tomei B'Drabanan. And he allowed you to burn it with Kodshim, which are Asr B'Natir. So you see that's something which is Asr B'Drabanan. The Torah says you're allowed to burn it with Kodshim, which is Asr B'Natir. The fact that it's only Asr B'Drabanan doesn't bother me. The fact is it's Tomei. Once it's Tomei, so the same thing, if you agree that Issa makes it permitted to have it with Kodshim, again, if you hold that something which is Asa, you're allowed to make it Tomei. So what difference makes it Asa B'Natir B'Drabanan? And if you say to me, no, only if it's Asa B'Natir, not if it's Asa B'Drabanan. Well, if that's the case, why did he allow you to burn Kodshim, which is Tomei B'Drabanan, Kodshim, which is Tomei D'Oraisa? Kodshim, which is Tomei B'Drabanan, is, according to you, is worth nothing. It's as if it's not Tomei at all. Says the Gemara, Omar Yomi, a whole new pshat. The bossa shnitva b'mashkin, shnitva machmas sheretz, ba'azer ameret amei Rabbi Yossi l'tamei. We're going to have now a machlokas. Can liquid ever make things tummy? We said a plot of earth can't make things tummy. Food can make things tummy. What about liquids? Can liquids spread tumah? If I get tumah, can they catch tumah and spread tumah? That's the big shaila. Does liquids catch tumah and spread tumah? Until now, we've always been understood they can. We're coming now to a situation where we're explaining that the machlokas Rameir and Rabbi Yossi in our Mishnah is dependent. It swings on the question: can liquid spread tumah or not? And we're discussing a case like this. Now, what happened was like this. Rabbi Chanina said, you've got 2 pieces of meat in the Beis HaMikdash. One that was touched by a Tmei Mace. So what is it? A Rishon L'Tumah. Rishon L'Tumah. The Tmei Mace touched it. Another piece. No, Tmei Mace means a dead person went to the Vaya, touched it. So it's a Rishon. And you got another piece of meat which had a very complicated case. What happened was like this. We're talking about a case where there was a sheretz, which is avatuma, and the sheretz touched a cup of water, just liquid, and the liquid touched a piece of meat. And says of Chanina's Kanakonim that these 2 pieces of meat, you're allowed to burn them together. Rameir held that liquid min haTorah does not spread tumah. Liquid doesn't spread tumah min haTorah. So therefore, min haTorah, you're actually burning something which min haTorah is Torah with something which is Tomei. Because one was touched by a Tmei Mace, and one by liquid which touched the shirt. So you're burning something which is D'Rabbanan Tomei, something which is D'Oraisa Tomei. Says Rabbi, if you're allowed to do that, so too I'm allowed to burn my chumos in the Pesach B'Shar Shishis once it's also with D'Rabbanan. Rabbi said no. Liquid has the power to spread tumah min haTorah. So therefore both are Tomei min haTorah. So therefore you can't compare your case to my case. There is your case where you're being attacked, where you're burning chametz in the Pesach B'Shar Shishis, which is only also with D'Rabbanan, is incomparable to the case of Chedidus Kadakonim, which both are Tomei min haTorah. Says the Gemara inside. As Rameh Tamei Rabbi Yossi Tamei. Rameh Tamei Domatumas Mashkin Tamei Achem D'Rabbanan. It's only D'Rabbanan. Rabbi Yossi Tamei Domatumas Mashkin Tamei Achem D'Oraisa. It has the ability to be matter. The time I want to do the price. It's a very short price. The halacha is top of the Medalef. One basic principle we all know. Sofik D'Oraisa. What's the din? What's the din by Sofik D'Oraisa? L'chumma. Sofik D'Rabbanan L'kul. If you've got something which is a sofik, let's say you've got liquids which are tomei, and they went and fell on something else. We're not sure if they fell on something else. Not sure. I mean, say, for example, you splashed a cup of wine which is tomei over a bunch of apples, and you don't know if the wine fell on the apple. Would the wine be tomei or torah? What would you say? The apples. Well, the apples were tomei or torah. I said the wine. Oh, because now it's a new thing. Right? Yesterday we said it is. So it depends. If we say that liquids have the ability to spread tumah min haTorah, so it's a sofik D'Oraisa l'chumra. If liquids only have the ability to spread tumah min D'Rabbanan, so therefore it's sofik D'Rabbanan l'kula. That's what the price says. Sofik mashkin tamei. If there's sofik, whether they became tomei, because this man Doma holds that liquids can become tomei min haTorah. Letamei acherim. If you're not sure if the liquids made something else tomei. But Meir and Ablaza hold that liquids can catch tumah min haTorah, but can't spread tumah min haTorah. They can only spread tumah min D'Rabbanan. So therefore, if you've got a sofik, if they made something else tomei, it is torah. Rabbi Yehuda tomei, it's always tomei. Rabbi Yehuda holds that what? that liquids can catch tumah and spread tumah midiraisa, and therefore sofik tumah is diraisa. They say that liquids can make other food tummy, they can't make vessels. That's right, the vessels only tummy. We have three shittas. Shittas Rameh is liquids can never spread tumah ever. They never spread tumah. They never spread tumah. Therefore, if you without Torah, only midrabanan. So therefore, if you're not sure, just Torah. Shittas Rab Yehuda is that it always can min haTorah. Shittas Rab Shimon is in between. That mashkin can spread to food min haTorah, to vessels midrabanan. So therefore, if it's a suffix, it is mutar. Rashi explains, which the Gemara will go into later. The Torah says, all liquids that can be drunk, yitmo will become tummy. The word yitmo means can become tummy. But you don't put vowels in the Sefer Torah. So the word yitmo can also say yitami. Ramnea holds, the Torah says yitmo, they can become tummy. The Torah never gave a hint that they can make tumah. So liquids can only become tummy, they can never spread tumah. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, yitame, they make other things tummy. Rabbi Shimon makes in between, because since the pasuk is talking about food, they can make food tummy. We'll come to that later. So let's get it very clear. We have two mahalchim, two completely different mahalchim in our Mishnah. Either Rameh learned his halachas from Chedidus Kadakeh name, because here the Chedidus Kadakeh is talking about Tumah D'Rabbanan and Tumah D'Oraisa, and therefore he said the same thing by Chomans. Once it's also with D'Rabbanan, I'm allowed to burn it with Tumah, proper Tumah. And Abdesi disagreed with him because here the Chedidus Kadakeh was talking about Tumah D'Oraisa with Tumah D'Oraisa, and therefore you can't compare it to a case where it's only Chomans which is with D'Rabbanan. But Abdesi would agree B'Shal Shvius which is also with D'Oraisa. Or he learned from Lezer Bishua, like we explained earlier, and therefore he can't compare it because one's a hefset and one's not a real hefset. We're going to go, it's a slightly easier Gemara for most of tomorrow, and then later it gets back to it. It's a lot. Today was a particularly challenging day, so if you found it thing, any questions?
Good, thank you. Thanks.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.